Hello and welcome to this Android phone tutorial brought to you by North Border Tech Training. My name is Gary, and as you may be aware, the FusedLocationProviderAPI has now been deprecated within the Android system, and the recommendation is to use the FusedLocationProviderClient. So that's what I'm going to do in this series of tutorials, just see how we do location-based services using the FusedLocationProviderClient. I'm going to be doing this in Java. I think many of you will have apps which use the FusedLocationProviderAPI. You may be looking to upgrade those apps or update them and using the FusedLocationProviderClient. So I'll be doing it in Java, but there will be a Kotlin version of this tutorial as well, so just keep a lookout for that. The other thing I'll do is keep these tutorials a little bit shorter, so there's going to be a number of parts to this one. Not sure how many at the moment, maybe 4, potentially 5 parts. And this part, we're just going to create the project. We're going to set up the manifest permissions, and we'll put the dependencies in the Gradle file and just create the layout, just explain what we're going to do, and then we'll get onto the Java coding in the next few tutorials. So let's just get on with it and just create a new project. I think I'll just call this sort of location services new, so it's using the new client. That's probably all we need to do. Make sure the Kotlin support is not ticked because we'll be doing this in Java. We use the minimum release of Lollipop still, but I will be compiling against Android 8, which is Oreo. And just an empty activity here just to avoid any clutter, and let's get that built. Okay, the project is built. So the first thing I want to do is just set up the dependencies. We need to reference the Google Play services either in its entirety, or what I'm going to do here is just reference the location element there. That will minimize the size of the code, and also it will prevent any multi-text errors which you may have encountered when you're doing location-based services in the past. If we put the full full Google Play services in there, we're going to be referencing far more than 64,000 methods, so you will need to turn multi-text equal to true to actually counter that particular problem. But let's just load in the elements we need, and then we can avoid that issue. So I'm just going to open up the Gradle file. So I want this build.gradle module app, and you can see you've got some dependencies down here. So I'm just going to type implementation. Now, what I'm looking for, I'm going to go to the developer's website. So it's this URL here. So if you go to this URL here, this is where you can find all the list of Google Play Services APIs. And I'm just going to search down this list for the location and activity recognition. I'm just going to copy that. Just one small point to note. Obviously this is the latest version available to me, which is 11.8.0. The recommendation is not to formally switch to the FusedLocationProviderClient until Google Play Services release 12 is available. By the time you get around to this tutorial, that might be the latest version. To be honest, it's not going to affect this tutorial and what we do, so everything we're doing is perfectly valid. But the recommendation is for prior to release 12 to carry on using the FusedLocationProviderAPI, even though that's been deprecated. Anyway, let's just copy this. That's just a little bit of advice. Just open up a single quote. I'm just going to paste that in, and obviously got this. You've got this message here. So Gradle file changed since the last project sync, and we just need to resync the project. So I'm just going to sync that now. Okay, that's got those Google Play services, at least the location elements, into the project. Just want to go on to the manifest now. So if we just open up the map app, we've got the manifest. I'm just going to put the permissions in here to allow us to use the location-based services within the device. So I'm just going to enable the find location. I'm looking for, well, I'm going to go on a list here. I'm looking for the Android permission access find location, and we'll just close that off. Okay, so I'm only adding the find location here. Implies the course location automatically when you select the find location, so we don't need to add the course location separately. We will be looking at systems using both the GPS and triangulation through the cell towers and Wi-Fi. I don't need to enable internet access here. By enabling the find location, it still allows the I guess the API to use the Wi-Fi to get the location of the device as well. So we don't need to add the internet permissions in there for Wi-Fi location services. This is all we need. So what I'm going to do now is just create a layout, and I'll get a few elements in, and we'll just explain what we're doing, because that just sets out the project work we're going to be doing over the next few parts. So let's just let's delete this hello world. I'm just going to space these out a little bit, just give them 16 dp margin between, and make sure these auto constraints are off. So I'm just going to put some text views in here, change the IDs. You'll get an idea for what we're going to be doing. So let's just go to the palette and let's get some text views in. I'm just going to add a constraint to the top here, constraint to the side, and here just constraint to top, constraint to the side. I'm just going to work on this one here at the moment. Don't particularly need to change the IDs of these. I'm just going to just change the text and the spacing. So it just goes to the attributes. I'm going to make the width of these about 100 dB. Just to all line up nicely. I'm just going to change the text to latitude. Okay, so I'll just leave the ID as default. Well, actually, just make that 1. Here I do. This is where we'll be writing the actual locations. So I'm just going to just put a little bit more work here. So change ID to TV latitude, and we'll leave it as wrap contents. And I'm just going to change. I don't really need to change the text here, so we'll just leave that in as it is. So I'm just going to get the rest of these in. I'm going to speed up the video a little bit, otherwise it's going to take too long, and we'll just review what we've actually physically done. Okay, that's the text views in. We'll review those soon. I just want to put 2 toggle buttons in. The toggle buttons will turn the location updates on or off, and also want a toggle button for the accuracy. So we're going to turn the GPS on, and we're going to turn the when we hit that, we'll also just then disable the GPS and just use the cell tower and Wi-Fi. So that'll be what we call balanced power accuracy against high power, which is the GPS. So just going to get those 2 toggle buttons in place. Just constrain these to the bottom. Just change the attributes here. Just make these 250 dp wide. Change the ID. and the text for the off will be turn on location updates, and it'll be turn off location updates for when the button's on. Yeah, let's just get the other toggle button in. And we'll just set the GPS, use this button to toggle the GPS and on or off. So we enable the cell tower Wi-Fi when the button's off. And the off text will be switched to GPS, and the on text will be switched to balanced power. Okay, so the only thing I want to do is just change the default text on these two, these two here. So the default position, it's not essential to do this, it just makes the app run a little bit better really when we've initially started up. So we're going to, the startup position will be running on cell tower and Wi-Fi. And the default situation here will be the updates will be turned off. Okay, so all right, let's just have a review of this particular layout. You can see what I want to achieve is simply just to get the latitude and longitude of the device. In previous examples when I looked at location-based services, that's all I've done. But I think it's useful to explore some of the other methods which are available around location-based services, because not all these things will be available, and I think it's useful to know that these things aren't 100% reliable, particularly in terms of the altitude. We've got to check that that the location has an altitude before we actually use it. Same with the speed as well. Not all sensors can pick up these things, but it's worth exploring. So all I'm doing is just looking for the latitude and longitude of the device. I'll be looking for the altitude and also the accuracy of that location. These are the things you can get. If it's available, we can look at the speed and also just some indications to which sensor type we're using, whether it's balanced power accuracy, which will use cell towers and Wi-Fi, and whether the updates are on and off. And obviously you can change those things with these toggle buttons here. So I'm just going to leave this tutorial here for now. We'll pick up by just setting up a Java framework in the next tutorial. So keep an eye out for that one. So hope you found this one useful, and catch you in the next one. Bye for now. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you find this tutorial useful. All the project files and source code are available for download on my website. Thank you.